Hi guys, this is the lesson from Tuesday, January 9th. If you are watching this, it's probably because you're in third period studies and you missed my class today because of advisory. Like I said, I really don't want you guys to be behind, so we're going to watch this as a video and just use that to be caught up on notes. I do have in the corner there, we're going to be taking our test next Wednesday, January 17th. It's our last test of the second quarter. I put it on Wednesday because I think you guys are going to have some other tests on Friday, and I don't want you guys to have too much going on in one day. The question of the day for this lesson: how and why did the United States take over Hawaii? This is a place that we have discussed a little bit, and we've kind of roped it in with the Spanish-American War. But it's important to note that Hawaii is different. We don't get this from Spain or anywhere else. This is a place that was actually its own country and that ruled itself for hundreds of years that the United States took over. So take a look at these images and just think in your head what makes Hawaii so great and so valuable. Why did the United States want it so badly? I'm not going to waste your time and be like, pause the video and write stuff down. So I'll just tell you. They have a lot of tropical crops that we cannot grow here in the rest of the United States, at least not in a place like New York that gets cold during the winter. Pineapples, bananas, macadamia nuts, coffee, and sugar. I have my Kauai coffee right on my desk here. We have a lot of products that we get from having a tropical environment, and it allows the United States to make a lot of money in trade and supply these commodities to consumers in grocery stores. So tropical crops are a huge reason why we wanted Hawaii. It's also just a famously beautiful place. Everyone agrees on this. They have an awesome, excellent tourism industry. I've never been there, but Mr. Murphy has. I bet some of you maybe have. And there's a lot of money to be made off of that. And then furthermore, Hawaii, as we can see on this map in the top left corner, it's located almost dead even in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which means it's a great place to have a military base. We've used it historically for a lot of military personnel, and we will see more about that when we get to World War II. It's also an excellent trading stopover. If you are trying to travel from the United States to China for the purposes of trade, as many big companies were at this time, Hawaii is an awesome place to stop, take on cargo, take on more food and supplies for your sailors, refuel, all of that kind of stuff. What's different about Hawaii is that Hawaiians have lived on their islands for thousands of years with their own language, traditions, and culture, okay? They have their own religion that was practiced there for a long time. They've been there for hundreds of years before Europeans or Americans even knew about them. This makes it very different from Cuba, for example, or Puerto Rico or Guam, because those places were colonies of Spain. We bought Cuba at the thrift store. We got Puerto Rico at the Goodwill because it was somebody else's first. Hawaii did not belong to anybody else other than just the Hawaiians. And we didn't even know about them for a long time. Captain James Cook was an English explorer. He was the first European to really discover, quote unquote, Hawaii, and he went there in 1778. Which means when the United States signed the Declaration of Independence, we probably didn't even know about Hawaii at the time. It hadn't really been discovered yet. It's a very interesting way to put things into perspective. For much of the 1800s, after Europeans discover Hawaii, it still exists as an independent country. So it does not become a colony the way that a lot of other places did. For example, the United States makes a friendship treaty with Hawaii in the 1840s, kind of an alliance, kind of our way of keeping other European nations from colonizing them. This is kind of a Monroe Doctrine kind of thing that we do. To establish a treaty with another country means you are formally recognizing that that country exists and is independent. So when the United States makes this friendship treaty, we are admitting that Hawaii is a real country. They have their own government, they have a constitution, they're led by a monarch, which means a king or a queen, usually a king, sometimes there were queens. We will learn about a couple of those today. This poster on the left, Lakuokoa Hawaii Ne, basically means like Happy Hawaiian Independence Day. Our Americans begin to go to Hawaii in the 1820s and 30s, and there's really two big groups that go there. We have our missionaries, people who want to convert Hawaiians to Christianity, and we have our businessmen, people who want to buy land and get rich with sugar, coffee, and fruit plantations. Some people go to convert Hawaiians to Christianity, some people go to make money. And when our Americans arrive there, this changes Hawaii in a few ways. First of all, I think it's just helpful to think of Hawaii and the experience for Native Hawaiians as very similar to what we learned about before break, which was the experience of Native Americans on the Great Plains. Native Americans on the Great Plains did not really believe in owning land. They thought that the land just kind of belonged to everybody, and we all rode around on it and hunted and lived on it. Hawaiians had kind of the same attitude. You can also, I guess, think about the movie Moana in a way, if that helps you. But once Americans arrive and want to build plantations, they start to sell Hawaiians on this idea that land is owned. This is my land. I bought it. I have the deed to it. You see this piece of paper? So we have to really convince the Hawaiians that that's the way that it should work. That's a big, big change for Hawaii. And then also similarly to Native Americans, many of them begin to die of diseases that they had never been exposed to. If you recall from 7th grade, many Native Americans died when Europeans began to come to North America because they got diseases that were common in Europe, but that had never been in North America, and so the natives had no immunities to those diseases. Smallpox is a really big example of that. Native Hawaiians have the same thing happening to them. There's a bunch of diseases, smallpox is one of them, that they don't have immunities to. So as more Americans and Europeans arrive there, Native Hawaiians die off. By 1893, which is about 120 years after Captain Cook got there, only 5% of the population of Hawaii is Native Hawaiians. So who are those other 95%? Well, many of them are white settlers, again, who came there as missionaries and who came there to start businesses. And then also, we have a really big Asian American population in Hawaii. Even today, if you took all of the states and you counted the percentage of people who are Asian American in them, Hawaii is number one. A lot of these people show up in the 1800s because they know there's big businesses, there's coffee and banana plantations, and there's good work. And later on, a lot of these people are barred from entering the United States. So Hawaii is seen as a good substitute of a place that they can immigrate to. Korean, Japanese, Filipino. Hawaii today is a very big racial mix. This photo here is from 1948, and it was taken at the University of Hawaii to show the amount of ethnic diversity, the amount of different ethnicities of people who lived in Hawaii. And as you can see, the whole back row is people who are Caucasian or white. The row in front of that is people who are Japanese. Then we see a bunch of people who are part Hawaiian. We see one Korean, a couple of Chinese, a few Filipino, and only one guy who is fully Native Hawaiian. It goes to show how many Native Hawaiians died off, and it goes to show how many other different groups of people have immigrated into into Hawaii over time. By the 1880s, these wealthy white Americans who owned the sugar and fruit plantations wanted to have more power and control in Hawaii. So they raised a militia, and they threatened to attack King Kalakaua if he did not accept changes to the Constitution. So they threatened this guy, the king. These changes would make it so that there were property requirements to be able to vote in Hawaiian elections, for people to go into the government and to have a say in what laws were passed. They threatened Kalakaua. They force him to say yes to this, or else they would have killed him. And it's known as the Bayonet Constitution because it was passed by threatening him. Kalakaua gave away a lot of the power of Native Hawaiians by doing this. He dies in 1891, and his sister, Queen Liliuokalani, becomes queen. Now, she's mad about what happened when Kalakaua was king. She doesn't like that now the white planters who own land are basically like the only people who can vote and have a say in the government. She's the queen, but she doesn't have much power. She's almost like the King of England today, mostly a figurehead. So she tries to rewrite the Constitution again to give rights back to Native Hawaiians. She's trying to help her people. But these plantation owners find out, and they use the U.S. Army and the Marines to overthrow her, okay? They threaten bloodshed. They threaten to attack the Native Hawaiian people if she does not step down as queen. And she's very afraid by this. She doesn't want anything bad to happen to her people, so she agrees to step down. The United States Army forced the Queen of Hawaii to step down. You have to remember that Washington, D.C., President Grover Cleveland did not really want us to annex Hawaii at this time. He didn't want to see us attack these people. He thought we could maintain a decent relationship with them. But it's very difficult for him to give direct commands to the military because news did not travel very quickly in the 1890s. He would have to send a telegram from Washington, D.C. to California, then that information would have to get onto a trans-Pacific ship and sail to Hawaii, which could take weeks. So he doesn't have the ability to stop this, even if he wants to. Liliuokalani spent years under house arrest, and during this time, the American planters in Hawaii elected a new man as president of Hawaii, and his name is Sanford Dole. He was a white American born in Hawaii, but he was part of this like upper class of planters. He was part of that big group of wealthy white plantation owners who controlled the government. That name Dole is the name that inspired the Dole Fruit Company. His family owned this company. So they're very, very wealthy, powerful, land-owning people in Hawaii. By 1898, President William McKinley formally annexed Hawaii. He finally completely takes it over because by then, the government of Hawaii was totally run by the white planters who were friendly with the United States. The Native Hawaiians can barely do anything to stop it. Queen Liliuokalani can't do anything to stop it. And the Spanish-American War was going on. We had just conquered the Philippines and Guam, and we want more. We're hungry for more territory, and we think that having Hawaii will help us win the Pacific if the war comes to that. So this is when we finally annex Hawaii. Things really only get worse for Native Hawaiians. I mean, they don't become a state until 1959. And like, my parents were born in the 1960s. We're not that far separated from this. Hawaii played a really huge role in World War II, and we will see that later on, but a lot of their traditions have been taken away from them. For a long time, it was illegal to teach the Hawaiian language in schools. Our government wanted these people to speak English and act more like Americans, which would mean giving up their traditional culture, their dances, and their religious practices. Those were now banned by this new government that was created by the plantation owners. Today, there are very few Native Hawaiian people, and most of them are like mixed race. So they're part Native Hawaiian, mostly white, or mostly Asian, because there's so few Native Hawaiian people that it's hard to find somebody who has two parents who are fully Native Hawaiian. Even today, they're kind of being priced out. Hawaii is one of the most expensive places in the country to buy a house because there's so little land and so many people would like to live there that your average working class Hawaiian can barely even dream of owning a home. Many of them are moving off of Hawaii and onto the west coast of the United States, and they're just further having their homes stolen from them. After watching the video, please go into Google Classroom and complete the exit ticket. You're going to answer each of these questions in a complete sentence each. How did the United States take over Hawaii, and why did the United States take over Hawaii? Okay? And I think we are good here. How do I stop the video?